From the trade deadline, which ends at 3 Eastern time on Thursday, already breaking news, fast and furious. And let's start right there with senior NBA insider Shams Charania, who's been a very busy man today. A little over an hour ago, breaking news on a trade. Shams, what do you have?
Hannah, so this is the first blockbuster of NBA trade deadline week. The Memphis Grizzlies have traded former Defensive Player of the Year Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Utah Jazz for a package of players that includes Walter Clayton Jr. and 3 first-round draft picks. And so the Jazz here, let's start with them. They're making a major swing in the Western Conference. Jaren Jackson now adds to a core of Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George, Walker Kessler. So this is a Jazz team that now Austin Ainge, their new head of basketball operations, Danny Ainge, their CEO, Ryan Smith, their owner. This is a big swing for them in the Western Conference as they try to turn the page and compete with some young talent. But the Grizzlies are now signaling a full rebuild around promising young players like Cedric Coward, like a Zach Edey, and they now have about a dozen first-round draft picks over the next 7 years that ties them with Oklahoma City and Brooklyn. And they also create a $28.8 million trade player exception. That's the largest in NBA history. So we saw Desmond Bane traded last offseason. Jaren Jackson Jr. now to start the trade deadline. And Ja Morant is waiting in the wings potentially as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about really in the run-up to this deal. You mentioned all those first-round picks. That's 7 now from this trade for Jackson and Desmond Bane. All right, we'll get back to you in a sec, Shams. Full house here. We have Wendy, we have Bobby Marks, we have Chene, we have Iman Shumpert. Hey, everybody, y'all ready?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. Wendy, what are your thoughts about this deal?
Okay, Jaren Jackson was a player who was interested. A lot of teams were interested in here, and this is what they call in the business pre-agency. He has 4 years and $200 million left on his contract. The Jazz are taking that contract in and paying dearly for it, but now this sort of becomes their free agent move that they would have done with salary cap space next summer. And Lauri Markkanen, now you may say he's a 7-footer. How does this work? Lauri Markkanen can play small forward. In fact, when he started doing that in Cleveland as a 7-foot small forward, it sort of revitalized his career. I would believe that the Jazz would intend to re-sign Walker Kessler and have a giant, basically 3 7-footer front line with Jaren Jackson, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, and I suspect they will still be tanking to make sure they get the draft pick. They have the draft pick, and that is going to be the foundation of their rebuild.
Bobby, what do you think?
You know what? I go back to last January when Utah made a trade with Phoenix, under the radar trade. They basically took a quality over quantity approach. They traded 3 of their lesser firsts, and guess what they got? A 2031 unprotected first from Phoenix. And you know what happened? That trade got it over with that trade pick. They got over the finish line, getting Jackson Jr. here. 3 first-round picks go to Memphis, as you mentioned, 12 over the next 7 years. Clearly a sign for this Grizzlies team that's rebuilding. And I give Utah credit. I mean, to go out there and make this type of deal, they wouldn't have been able to go out and get Jaren Jackson Jr. in free agency.
Tonight,
I give them more than credit. I have officially taken note of the Utah Jazz. No more rebuilding. Donovan Mitchell left in 2021, 2022 after that season. It took 4 years in the trenches, and now it looks like they're trying to climb their way out. And what I've noticed is that front line, because in the Western Conference, if you want to go to an NBA Finals, you have to go through Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Alperen Şengün, Rudy Gobert. So you need to have a stout front line, and I like the one that they built or are building for the future.
Yeah, I love it. My favorite thing on paper to look at is Keontae George and Jaren Jackson together. You know, guys, I'm a fan of, at the end of the game, what are you guys going to do? I really like my chances with those two making decision-making. You got your Jamal Murrays and your Jokic's, and they just fit into that DNA. You got your guys that can come off pick and rolls and make you pay. It's hard to deal with at the end of games. I now like it for the future, and I'm not even mad at the rebuilding opportunity that the Grizzlies have here. I like what they're doing, too. We'll just see what happens with Ja Morant.
Yeah. More on Ja Morant. So what potentially does this mean?
So because, as you mentioned, they got 7 first-round picks for Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson. As I talked to executives around the league, they think that this changes what they can expect back in a Ja Morant trade. Instead of trying to trade Ja for as much value as they can, which frankly, there's not as much value for Ja. That's why Bane and the Jackson have been traded first. They now, executives believe, can take on salary because they've offloaded this $200 million that they were owed to Jackson. They can sort of use Ja as a trade piece to balance out salary, take back bad money and receive assets for that. So I think they can have sort of fresh discussions with John Morant for in trade negotiations, and that's I think why they did Jaren Jackson first to open that up between now and Thursday afternoon.
In the meantime, he's been injured. He hasn't been playing. And we have another deal. So let's go back to Shams Charania. There was another trade that has happened within the last hour, a 3-team deal. What can you tell us about that?
Guys, a 3-team deal, Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit. So Detroit, let's start with them, the best team in the Eastern Conference. They're getting a sharpshooter, Kevin Huerter, as well as Dario Saric, but that's just salary filler in this deal. The Bulls are getting Jaden Ivey. He's going to be up for a new contract this offseason, and so he now joins this group of guard players with Josh Giddey, brings some youth, obviously throws Kobe White's future. He's going to be a free agent, throws his future a little bit in peril with the Bulls, and let's see where he lands at this NBA trade deadline. But listen, Minnesota is very interesting in all this. They essentially dump Mike Conley Jr.'s salary onto Chicago here in this 3-team deal. They end up also sending a pick swap to Detroit to help facilitate this. But this now opens up $24 million. Bobby Marks can do the math, about $24 million in tax and salary savings. It creates a roster spot for them. We know they are pursuing a star out of Milwaukee this week, so it does create a little bit of flexibility as they try to do that.
Yeah, Bobby, so their luxury tax bill drops from $24 million to $3.8 million. So explain now what are they able to do?
There's that component, and now they drop under the dreaded apron.
They're under the first apron,
so the ability
right.
to take back more money in a deal here, and I think that's kind of sets the stage up for maybe something bigger. I think it's interesting that in 2 years in a row, Hannah, we've seen the top team in the Eastern Conference, Cleveland last year with DeAndre Hunter, and now Detroit, go out and make a trade because they're not content with their roster. We talked about it in the pre-production meeting. What did Detroit need? Perimeter shooting, 21st in the NBA. Kevin Huerter, come on down. That gives them certainly a nice around the margins type move.
So this is a pre-agency move by the Bulls because they are getting Jaden Ivey, a restricted free agent. I would expect them to sign him later this summer. Obviously Kevin Huerter is going to shoot for Detroit. I would now look, Shams mentioned Kobe White. You just threw a pass there. Kobe White, I think, could be on the move in a pre-agency move by whoever acquires Kobe White. And Kobe White is a guy who is a scorer, a spark plug, can start, can come off the bench. It would not surprise me if he ends up at a contender because his price point is kind of low. For Minnesota, this is a hedge, okay? On one hand, they save a bunch of money, okay? Let's not ignore that they paid on this deal to save a bunch of money. And if it helps them get Giannis, great. But if it doesn't help them get Giannis, they saved a bunch of money, which is also something that's a factor there.
But what about the Kobe White of it all? That's intriguing.
I've seen the Bulls play a ton, and when I look at how it goes, I kind of saw him being the odd man out eventually anyway. It's not his fault. His game is his game. It's not like it's no value to his game. It's just when you talk about a rebuilding process or you talk about heading into a new direction, I don't see, what the small guard would do if you're going to try and blossom with the other guys you have on your roster. Letting go of Huerter, I don't think they were going to do much with him anyway. I'm excited to see the Bulls get better and better. That's my hometown team. So
yeah,
so I got to play for other. Yeah, I need them to be okay, and I'm excited to see what they're doing.
Jaden's mom is excited. Niele Ivey, she coaches at Notre Dame, right down the road. Man. She's going to be at all those home games. How do you like this?
A couple of breakout moments. I would even say like seasons for Kobe White. But when you are 9th in the East, when you're in the middle of the pack in the NBA, you had time to sort of audition for a greater opportunity. And I do think when you see enough of a sample size, you make a decision. But my eyes are honestly on Detroit for Bobby's point of view. This is a team that's going for it. And I love that. The East has not really proven any other contenders. The Knicks are hot right now, but it's been up and down. The Sixers, they have their own adversity given Paul George. Like right now, they're starting to see, like, if we beef up this roster, we are going for it right now. They will have to build through experience in the postseason, but I like the moves that they're making.
Let me just say two things. One, I want to see what Minnesota does guard-wise. Assuming they don't get Giannis, they could have gotten Kobe White in this trade. And they need help at the guard position. So I want to watch what Minnesota does between now and Thursday, and I'm sure Ann Edwards does too. Secondly, Mike Conley going to Chicago, this is a potential buyout situation. I'm not sure what Conley, I don't think Conley can play a big role in the team, but this is a guy every team in the league would want. He could get bought out in a contender if they fit the criterion, which is another story for another day. Mike Conley could join a contender in the next couple of weeks.
I have just like one thought. How urgent are the Minnesota Timberwolves right now? Because they have Anthony Edwards, 24.
Well, they're trying to get Giannis. I mean, that's pretty urgent.
We know that. But, like, if that
like,
falls
what's plan
short,
B?
there are options
Well,
right now.
if you're, I don't want to overreact on Tuesday when the deadline is Thursday, but if you come out of this week and Minnesota's move is just to save money, they're going to have to answer to Ant on that. But it's just Tuesday,
okay.
so let's just wait.
By the way, in the last 12 hours, we also had this James Harden news, which kind of came out of the blue. So coming up, we're going to talk about that on NBA Today. All of that trade chatter once again surrounding the beard. I know it's a lot, right? On the move again, potentially. Sham's back with all the latest on the offers that the Bucks are weighing for Giannis. Details on this major decision that this franchise is going to have to make, you guys, in the next 48 hours. Ooh, look at that countdown clock. All right, we're getting down to the one. The NBA Today, Shams last night, I think surprising a few folks, reporting that the Clippers are working on dealing James Harden before the deadline. This would be, if it happens, the 5th time in his career that he's been traded. 3 of those previous trades have actually come in season. Shams, what more can you tell us?
Hannah, so this was a stunner around the NBA, but James Harden and the Clippers today actively are working on a trade for him out of LA. And the one team that has emerged with serious interest is the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Clippers have interest in Darius Garland. The Cavaliers have interest in James Harden. And why this is even possible is because James Harden has a mutual option in his contract for next season. He's got a $13 million partial guarantee, and that has sparked discussions over the last several days about James Harden's future with the Clippers and whether there is a longer-term contract potentially awaiting him in the offseason. And once there was nothing really promised, there's no guarantee that he's going to be on the Clippers roster even next season and beyond. There are teams waiting in the wings, and the Cavaliers clearly have a potential need for him, and both sides are looking at this as a potential beneficial option. James Harden wants to compete for a championship. He sees the Clippers are a play-in tournament team right now. The Cavaliers obviously have aspirations in the Eastern Conference, so potentially to play with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley has become a priority for Harden this week.
Okay, Shams, please don't go far, okay? Just stay there. We'll be back with you in a sec. You can see why teams would want James Harden. Really, he's 36 years old. He's still playing at an elite level. Look at this. Averaging over 25 points, 8 dimes a game, 3rd most assists per game in the entire league. He only trails Kay Cunningham and Luka Doncic. Brian, you were there last night as all of this was kind of going down. What do you think of this?
Surreal night and a surreal season for the Clippers. It was a stunner to the NBA, but the Clippers, I think, and the 76ers players actually knew it last night. 76ers have experience with James Harden trade demands, in fact.
Oh, my gosh.
And, they fall down 16-2 to start the game. You could just tell they had no energy. This has been one of the strangest seasons for a team I've ever experienced in my time covering the NBA. We have a team that had very high expectations to start the season, got off to a terrible start in the wake of an alleged scandal. Then they completely turned the season around. They go 17-4, and now one of the cornerstones of that turnaround is essentially forcing his way out of there. And you've still got the thunderstorm on the horizon, which is the potential aspiration sanctions, if indeed there are any, while the Clippers are trying to do something special this season. We thought the Clippers were going to be buyers, so this is going to be interesting. So I will just say, well, let Bobby explain the very complicated complexities of this contract and why this trade is unique. From the Cavs' perspective, Cleveland has another contract situation to worry about. It's not Garland's, it's Donovan Mitchell's. The Cavs have underachieved throughout the course of this season. I think they have made the decision that they need to alter their core, what they call their core 4. Darius Garland is part of that core 4. He has had injury issues to both his right and left toes. And while James Harden is 10 years older, James Harden is a player who the Cavs can believe on the other side of this can improve their chances of winning the Eastern Conference. And I believe that they are willing to entertain this to make sure Donovan Mitchell feels more comfortable signing an extension, make this a more competitive team this year, and potentially send a message that they are being very aggressive to the rest of the league.
I mean, Bobby, how easy does this trade look?
Well,
potentially, let's talk Cavaliers and Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're just looking at, and as Brian said, I think if we're just looking at math, right, it's simple. Harden makes $39.2 million, and Garland makes $39.4 million. So that works. here's where it gets complicated, Hannah. Harden has a de facto no trade clause. He dictates as far as where he wants to go in a trade. So anything in a trade, he has to approve. The other thing is, when he did the deal, the Clippers gave him a 15% trade bonus in his contract. That's worth $2.3 million. However, for this trade to happen, he would have to waive that bonus because remember, Cleveland is a second apron team. They can't take back more money here. So those are two factors. And then as Brian mentioned before, that contract next year, that salary, is only partially guaranteed. So when you look at it right here, that works. It's basically a swap, but they're going to have to get through some mechanics here as far as waiving that no trade clause and also waiving also the 15% trade bonus here. So there's some things to work around the edges there.
He's not going to do it for free.
Well,
He's not going to. That's two things he's got to say yes to, and he's not going to do it for free, and I don't blame him. Just to jump in there.
Right,
Sorry.
right. Okay, no, good. Jump in anytime,
No,
Wendy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Shump, how do you like this on the floor, potentially, if you swap Garland and Harden out?
On the floor, I don't know if I like it because
Why not?
I've watched the Cavs be successful in the past, hanging their hat on the defensive end. You just got rid of DeAndre Hunter, and now you bring in James Harden. Your defense takes a hit. I love Ja. I think he protects the rim, and he does a great job out there. I think their guard play, they all defend and try and compete. But when you add James Harden, you're going to lose a little bit on defense, which, you know, I'm sure they know and they're willing to roll their dice with that. But I wouldn't do it. I've seen the ball dominance of James Harden. I've seen the ball dominance of Spider Mitchell, and I think it clashes. I think that was a lot of the problem with Chris Paul and James Harden. You can't figure out who's going to make the decisions, and if those two guys butt heads, you don't want that. I don't want to see it, but I hope they make me wrong. If it happens and I'm wrong, I would love to be wrong about this because that's two all-star basketball players.
Ever that would love to be wrong.
I would. I would love for the Cavaliers to do well.
Yeah, but you know what? You just highlighted something very important. It is kind of a high risk, high reward because you do lose on defense, but you do gain a lot offensively. There have been many different versions of James Harden, the beard, right? The sixth man, the MVP, and now the James Harden that we see in 2026, year of our Lord, is the facilitator. That is the guy that we got to know in Los Angeles. You're going to see plenty of great screens, and we all know James Harden, no matter what, can get a bucket. He's averaging 25. He's still elite, considered a snub by some, right? Step back, he's going to knock it down, but he's so good at reading. Before, he would settle. Now he's taking what the defense gives him. But this right here is a separator, and this is why potentially Cleveland is giving a hard look at him. The pick and roll that he had on display with Zubac, it was masterful. These are hours and hours and days in the gym. Look at the behind-the-back pass. And I say these numbers for a reason because I want to show you these stats. Over the last 3 seasons, no one has generated more amongst two players, ball handler and screener, than those two. Now you combine the fact that Cleveland needs to unlock Evan Mobley, needs to unlock Allen. They need to make their post players look like stars in order to compete in the East and get to where their expectations are. I see why they're making potentially this risky move, a hard look at Harden, pun intended, because this is who he is now. He can knock down an open shot. He's a team-first guy, but most importantly, he brings out the best out of the post players, and that's where they really need that effort.
Yeah, DNP last night, again, for the second straight game for personal reasons. He was elsewhere, as we know.
Yeah.
You said in our pre-show meeting, this is one of the most fascinating basketball stories that you have ever covered, this Clippers franchise. Why?
Yeah, because this is a team that really had high expectations. I'm not sure I would have picked them to win the West, but they finished last year so strong, went 7 games with the Nuggets in the first round. They thought that they upgraded their roster in the offseason. That's debatable. But when you go 17-4, and not only that, Kawhi Leonard is playing really some of the best basketball he's had. Kawhi and James were the cornerstones of this team. And I'm not sure how long they could have stayed together, but the cornerstones of this team. And for James to, it's his prerogative. James has got to take care of himself. But it's just unusual. But I also say that Cleveland has believed in this core four for a long time, which is, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Garland. And now to move off of that, it signals pretty much anything is possible. Cleveland has already made 1 trade this week. I think, in talking to sources, this deal can get done if the Cavs say yes. And what's holding the Cavs up is, I'm sure, what they might have to pay James Harden in a new contract, but also that they actually want to fracture the core four, because this is, I can tell you, just spending a lot of time around Cleveland, this is something that they believed in could lead them to the finals. But I think this ball is sitting in the Cavs' court right now.
Real quick, Bobby, could they afford to keep that core four, though? What would that look like?
They can. I mean, you're swapping out the Garland and Harden number here, and I think if we're talking about what James Harden wants. If for this deal to happen, if I'm James Harden, I'm wanting my contract for next year guaranteed. It's only $13 million of that $42 million, or we're going to rip that up and we're going to do a new deal in the offseason here. But yeah, it's expensive. They've committed to paying over $140 million in luxury tax penalties, but if they can get to an NBA Finals, you can justify that.
Yeah, meanwhile, for James Harden, he has the second most career points in NBA history. Now, on this date, Steph Curry dropping 51 against the Wizards, 11 of 15 from long range, improving the Warriors to 45-4 on their way to the historic 73 wins. Now, Steph's not in uniform tonight as the Warriors host the Sixers. He has left sciatic nerve irritation. This will be the 12th game he's missed this season due to injuries, averaging just over 27 per game and shooting close to 40% from three-point range. As our senior writer with the Warriors, Anfernee Slater, joins us now. What's the state of this team less than 48 hours before the deadline, Slater?
Yeah, on the ground, it's the injury issues, which you mentioned. It's actually Seth Curry dealing with the sciatica. Steph Curry's dealing with the runner's knee, a kind of persistent issue that they're trying to manage. And that's, giving them trouble trying to win in the moment. But we all know hovering over them is much more important, bigger picture questions. Just there's a general unease because they know, the players know this team is chasing after Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if you're chasing after a big fish like the Warriors are, that either means you have to trade Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green just from salary matching purposes. And the reality is Draymond Green in this current market is a more maneuverable contract. And, a 27.6 team option next season. He's playing, he's available, unlike Jimmy Butler, obviously, who's rehabbing an ACL tear. So, Draymond Green, he means so much to this franchise. But as they try to rearrange the roster and puzzle piece stuff together and get in the Giannis market, the big fish market, the reality is Draymond Green has to come up in those conversations.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the Curry brothers clarification. We appreciate you, as always, Slater. We'll check back in with you shortly. And as we approach this deadline, obviously the biggest question does remain right there in Milwaukee. The Bucks actively engaging in talks for trade scenarios for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Will it happen this week? Will it happen after the season? So many questions. So we go back to Shams. Shams, what more can you tell us about what's going on there?
And Bucks officials, executives, ownership, they're all huddling around the clock on figuring out where they want to play this Giannis situation, either at the deadline or in the offseason. As I reported last week, Giannis Antetokounmpo is ready for his exit from Milwaukee, whether it's at the deadline, in the offseason. So the Bucks have been sifting through aggressive offers from teams like Miami, Golden State, Minnesota, New York. And so a lot of these deals, Warriors has been pick heavy. Minnesota's been player heavy and player centric. And then you have the Heat as kind of a combination of both picks and players. So you have to sift through that. Can anything reach the threshold where you're going to move the two-time MVP? But there's a conflict here in the second half of this Bucks season. They are playing more toward lottery positioning and jockeying than for Giannis's return from a calf strain. So where does that leave him? And he wants to play basketball. He wants to compete for a championship in the second half of the season. This is a Bucks team that's now 11 games under 500. They've plummeted in the Eastern Conference standings. So what's the risk reward doing a deal now versus in the summer when Giannis will be an expiring contract?
Thanks. So much to consider. So many people interested. Shams all over it. Thank you. And earlier today, Jimmy Haslam, who owns the Cleveland Browns, obviously, but also shares majority ownership of the Bucks. He was holding a press conference about football, but was asked about Giannis.
Jason, Giannis is, top 3, top 4 player in the world. He brought Milwaukee its first championship in 50 years, several years ago. And he's a really good person, too. He's no problem. He's a great leader, tries hard. And I think Giannis and the Bucks, and this goes back before we were involved, have always worked closely to see what's best for Giannis and what's best for the Bucks, and we'll continue to do so.
What's the success?
Jason, Giannis is, top 3, top 4 player in the world. He brought Milwaukee its first championship in 50 years, several years ago. And he's a really good person, too. He's no problem. He's a great leader, tries hard. And I think Giannis and the Bucks.
Just in case you didn't hear it the first time.
He's a top. We know he's a top three player.
Exactly. We just want to run it back for y'all. Make sure everybody's paying attention. Wendy, this Bucks ownership situation is really interesting. I wonder how this impacts the Giannis of it all.
Yeah,
Can you lay it out for us.
I can understand why people are like, why won't they just do something? And I just want to explain the difficulty that comes with a trade like this, because obviously you have to have the Bucks happy with the return, the team that's offering Giannis, those have to agree. Then because Giannis is a free agent after next season and he has to sign an extension, he's got to kind of be on board. It doesn't have to sign off on it, but you're going to get a better offer if he's on board. Then you've got the Bucks ownership situation. The Bucks have a relatively unique ownership structure. They have 3 owners who all share control. There are 2 owners, Jimmy Haslam and Wes Edens, who share the governorship. And when they have a big decision to make, like trading Giannis, the 3 of them vote. Now, most of the time, over the years, where they've had this 3-person panel, they've agreed. But there have been times in the past where they don't agree. And so you have to get ownership on board, Giannis on board, Bucks on board, next team on board. And it's not a simple thing.
Right.
So that is why I suspect, and others suspect, that getting it done by Thursday is going to take a heroic effort. And I suspect when it does happen, it's going to be the result of a lot of those things having to align.
All right, what would it take to get this deal done? Like, what do you have to give up to make this thing a no-brainer?
Well, I just had flashbacks to my first year in New Jersey. Like, we had a group called the Sea Caucus 7 who couldn't make up their mind.
Exactly.
And that just reminded me exactly of what probably Milwaukee is going through right now. All right, here is your checklist, draft picks. You got to get some draft picks as part of the trade. Golden State's got the 4. We all know that. Miami's got 2. New York and Miami have none. New York and Minnesota have none. Controllable contracts, young players. Me and Brian are at the Clipper game last night. I see a young player in Philadelphia. He's not available, and VJ Edgecombe. That's the type of player that you're looking for, that blue chip prospect. And then the third, expiring contracts or movable salary. So as Anthony said, is it Draymond Green that would be in there that you could potentially move in another deal here? But there is a checklist for Milwaukee. And the big question is going to be, can you get it now, or are you going to have to wait until the offseason?
I mean, what would you guys like to see happen here? I know there's all sorts of machinations and, it can be very complicated, but what's your dream for him?
Well, the cool thing about Giannis is Giannis plays a style of basketball that I mimic it to having a Kevin Durant on your team. You can't go wrong with no matter what uniform. He plays hard. He's going to do the same things as far as rebound, do a full run out. He can play the point just playing with Jason Kidd. It's all a part of his DNA to play good basketball. It's successful basketball, and you compare him with any other superstar and expect some results. So I don't really mind where he goes. I was just excited when I thought it was the Knicks.
Oh, you were excited when you thought it was the Knicks?
So were they.
You know what I'm saying? I like that.
We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Sinead, real quick word. Yeah.
Look, my eyes are on Golden State.
Okay.
The urgency is there. He wants to win, and that would be a huge moment for the power balance of the NBA.
Okay, Bobby.
I will say this, and the expiring contract plays a lot into it, where he's got another year left.
Yep.
If Giannis had 3 or 4 more years left on his contract, there would have been teams like what we just saw with Utah go out and trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. Because he has 4 or 5 years left on their contract.
Thank you for bringing me to our next subject, because we are going to talk about the Utah Jazz. That trade that Chom's reported earlier today, the Grizzlies are trading Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Jazz, part of an 8-player trade involving Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, George Yang, 3 first-round picks, as we now bring in senior writer Tim Bontemps. So what is Utah planning to do this season with the addition of Jackson Jr.?
Well, they're going to be huge, Hannah. They're going to be one of the bigger teams in the league with a 6'10" Jaren Jackson Jr., a 7'1" Lauri Markkanen, when he's healthy next season, a 7'2" center in Walker Kessler. The Jazz are going to be one of the biggest teams in the league, and in a Western Conference where you've got the Oklahoma City Thunder with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama and Luke Cornett, the Houston Rockets with Steven Adams, and he gets back out to Parent Şengün with Kevin Durant. These teams across the West are all jumbo-sized teams. Obviously, Nikola Jokic in Denver. To go up against those teams, you have to have size. And the Jazz believe the combination of these 3 guys together, with the shooting that Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson have, the interior presence of Jaren Jackson, a former Defensive Player of the Year with Walker Kessler, gives them the ability to go up against those teams. And they felt the price for Jaren Jackson Jr. was too good to pass up, even though they're obviously in the middle of what currently is a rebuilding season.
Yeah, so there's a whole other layer to this, right? The Jazz lose their first-round pick if it falls outside the top 8 spots in the lottery. Now, as of today, they have the 6th worst record in the NBA. So talk us through the significance of this.
Well, this is something, Hannah, that the entire league is going to be watching over the next couple of months. There's been a lot of talk over the past couple of years about protected picks, like this top 8 pick that the Utah Jazz have. Last year, the Sixers had a top 6 protected pick. Bobby Marks just mentioned VJ Edgecombe. The Sixers kept that pick and got the 3rd pick in the draft by tanking for the entire second half of last season. And I think you can expect, even after this trade, the Utah Jazz are going to try very hard to keep that top 8 protected pick. And if it falls outside the top 8, if it gets to 9th or 10th, it goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending champions who already have a ton of talent on the roster. And by the way, who had that Sixers pick last year that they didn't get as well. So that's going to be a fascinating thing to watch over the next couple of months.
You've literally got us all shaking our heads. But, I mean, they are walking a very fine line here. Tim Bontemps, we appreciate you jumping on with this. NBA Today and breaking news. The trades have been coming fast and furious this afternoon. And we have another one. Shams, what can you tell us?
Hannah, the Boston Celtics have been searching on the marketplace for a center. They've gotten it. It's the Bulls' Nikola Vucevic. He's going to the Celtics. A 2nd-round pick also going to the Celtics for Anfernee Simons, who's been a scoring machine for Boston, but him as well as the 2nd-round pick going to the Bulls. And so the Celtics talk to plenty of teams about centers. Ivica Zubac, Daniel Gafford. The list goes on. They land on Nikola Vucevic, and he's going to provide floor spacing. They just needed a big man there at center as they go and trek toward the playoffs. But for the Bulls now, my phone is flooded with texts about Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu and what is their future. Because now you've got Jaden Ivey, a young guard coming in. You've got Anfernee Simons, who's a scoring guard coming in. And he adds to a group that already has the Josh Giddey's, the Ayo Dosunmus, the Kobe Whites of the world. So there's going to be some more movement here in Chicago.
Unbelievable stuff, Shams. A busy day for Chicago. Lots of questions there on the horizon. Thank you so much for all of this breaking news today. Shump, what do you think of this just on its face? We'll get into the business part in a sec. You like it?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a Josh Giddey guy. You know what I'm saying? I like the way he plays. I think he has an array of moves and finishes that he likes to do, and he's a slasher type player. We got a ball dominant guy now that doesn't mind holding on to the ball and waiting to the very end to get us something. And he's young Dame. I see his game and I see how much time they spent in the gym together. I think it's remarkable that he scores the ball in a similar way that Damian Lillard does, and that's all I feel I'm getting when I get him. You see his one dribble, pound dribble to the step back. He's able to get in there and do the floaters, and he's got height on him. He doesn't have to use a lot of dribbles, but he doesn't mind. I think he's a willing passer. It's hard to find a willing passer in the NBA, and if you can get him the right pick and roll, he's a dangerous guy to bring to a team like that.
Sinead, what about the other side of it, the Celtics?
Oh, yeah. You said it was remarkable. You said the word remarkable. That's what I'm using to describe Boston this year. A lot of people thought this was going to be a gap year. It's turning out to be a very, very solid, a good year for the Boston Celtics. They're 3rd in the East, and now they get a big. That is very important for them, especially if they're going to go up and try to make some noise in the postseason. And with Vooch, he fits that Missoula system, y'all. That guy can shoot. He's shooting, I think, 37% from 3. He's big and strong. He's not afraid. He doesn't, run away from physicality. Look at this right here, knocked down. Joe Mazzulla's like, this could work for me. I can do something with this. This is a good step in the right direction for a team that we thought, they were selling off pieces a couple, after the championship. It was difficult after Jason Tatum's injury. Now you've built back in a way that I'm actually quite surprised at how quick the turnaround has been.
Bobby, your thoughts?
Well, to get something, you got to give up something. I mean, Anfernee Simons had been pretty good with Boston.
Really
this year.
good off the bench.
6-man numbers here, and there was a somewhat of a, I think, more of a void for the playoffs because Nemes Queta has been pretty good holding down the fort for Boston right now. But you get an established player in Nikola Vucevic, double expiring contract, so there's some financial savings here. But I think this move is made for more for April and May, less for the rest of the regular
And we still don't know the Tatum of it all, right? He has not decided when and if he's coming back.
So Tatum is an outlier, a major thing we don't know about.
Right.
Vucevic is the type of player that Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, they won championship with it. Man, Simons was playing great. He just had an incredible January for Chicago. I assume they're making this trade because they intend to pay Anfernee Simons. Just as I made the trade for Jaden Ivey, they intend to pay him. This is, again, pre-agency, and now it is going to open up pre-agency for Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, who was probably, I would say almost certainly, both of them strongly going to be elsewhere by Thursday, if not by the end of today.
And I'm sorry, Kobe. I'm sorry.
What?
He said he's sorry.
I'm sorry that he got it. You know what I mean? I'm sorry.
He might be going somewhere getting paid. He may be.
Oh, no, he going to play some good basketball. I'm just sorry I got to part with him. You know
Yeah. Coining a new term in Webster's
No, it's not. It's
Dictionary.
not a new term.
Pre-agency.
It's a good one.
I didn't coin.
I like it.
I didn't coin.
All right. Whatever.
Bobby.
Give you guys credit anyway. Bobby coined it. Whatever. What is going to happen with James Harden? We're going to talk about that
DVD.
coming up on the move again.